Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I'm your host, Chris Cosentino. We are here to talk about people that inspire, and all my guests are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm really looking forward to digging deep into how they got to where they are, to the top of their game, how hard they've worked, how much they've given up, and how they're giving back. So without further ado, here's our next guest. All right, hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I am here with Lachlan Morton. Those of you who don't know who he is, you should pay attention because he's created this whole new form of, no, he hasn't created the form, but he's embraced this form of racing and fun while racing in the Pro Tour. And I think it's a really refreshing change, where I'm really excited to watch it because, yeah, I love watching the Pro Tour racing, but I think it's more exciting watching what you're doing. So welcome to the show. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
I kind of want to start at the beginning. I mean, you're from Australia. I know you and your brother used to race together, also separate teams. What was that trajectory? How did that start? Because what you've been able to accomplish is no small feat. I mean, this stuff is massive. And I want people to recognize how much work and energy you've put in to get here.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up with bikes like around all the time, and like taking bikes apart and like putting them back together and like just like playing with them basically. And we lived on like a farm outside of town, and so like we had lots of space, so like we would make bike tracks and race each other around, and we had motorbikes and just like we always had bikes around basically. And my dad was really into like car racing, so we were going to start go-kart racing when we were kids, because like we loved anything fast, and we had friends of ours who were going to get go-karts like the same year, and they had kids the same age as my brother and I, and we'd already nearly killed each other on motorbikes because we were so competitive. So they didn't want us in the same categories, like racing each other, basically, because they're like, we'll kill each other. So they got go-karts, and instead we joined the bike club because there was like a local cycling club in our town. And we were in a town of like, at that time it was about 30,000 people. So not a massive town, but not super small. But the bike club was like, had over 200 members, I think, which doesn't seem strange now, like when cycling's a lot bigger. But at that point, like in Australia, that was a rarity to have like a cycle club that strong. And yeah, there was just something about it that like immediately clicked. And like, I think we had like, well, my brother was really talented. He had a lot of ability for it. And I was just always trying to like chase him down basically. So I kind of was racing on the weekend, like at the local club. And then when I was 10, I saw the Tour de France. Like we were on a family holiday and I saw it in person, 2003. And like that was it. That's when I first saw that like professional cycling was a real thing, because in Australia it's like, I was definitely the strange kid to be riding bikes. Everyone else was like surfing or playing rugby or like riding motorbikes. So yeah, I saw that, and then I distinctly remember like making the decision then, like from that point on, I was like, when anyone would ask me what I was going to do when I was older, I was like, I'm going to be a professional cyclist. And then, so from the age of like 10 until I turned professional when I was like 19, that's all I did. I just rode my bike. And like I'd wake up every morning at like 4:30, and I would start riding at 5 so I could get in like 3 hours before school. And then I'd go to school, and then I'd like ride back home. I'd get mum to come like with the bike in the car, and like I was just crazy about it. So I got really good at it because I did a lot of it. and then I turned professional when I was like 19 years old. So it was like it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a rapid like progress or anything. Like I did, as you said, like it was at that point a lot of hard work. Like I was riding probably like pretty close to 30 hours when I was like 15, 16, just also going to high school, you know?
That's a
So
massive number.
yeah, and like looking back at it, like none of it was healthy. You know, it was a real, like it was an obsession. And it was just like at that point I was so competitive and just, I don't know, I had this drive to prove myself, like at every race I went to, and if I didn't win I was upset, you know. So I look back, like I was almost a different person then, but definitely like that, like foundation of like hard training and just like work ethic, I guess. Like it still, I still benefit from today, I think, like having done it.
So, you trained. What brought you to the States? So you're based in Boulder and in I'm guessing Spain, just like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. More so Boulder now.
Okay.
But yeah, when I, like during my junior years, we would come to like the States because my dad was working here a bit. So we would come like in the American summer for like 3 or 4 weeks. And during one of those like stays, the US championship was on. Like I think I was 15, 16 or 17. I think I was 15, 16. And my dad was like, "Oh, why don't we go do this?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a go." And I won that. And Jonathan Borders was there. He was like watching the race for whatever reason. I guess scouting. Like that would be the reason. I think I won in front of Lawson, like Lawson Craddock, who we were teammates, or we are teammates. But yeah, that kind of like got me on the radar. And then there was an opportunity that came up when I was like 17, that I could go and race for the development team for Garmin, which meant moving to Boulder. And I was like just finishing high school, and I did like fine in high school. So I was kind of thinking like, oh, what do I do now? Like keep racing, or like do I go to university? But I didn't have any interest outside of riding bikes, you know. So like I kind of knew deep down that university was going to be a waste of time anyway. And plus I was like, this is too good of an opportunity. Like I'm just going to go do it. So that was when I first moved to the States full time. So I was like just turned 18, and moved over to Boulder and experienced my first real winter, which was like a big old shock to the system.
I
But
can't.
yeah, then I've been living in the States on and off since then, with like time in Europe. And yeah, but basically Boulder on and off for 10 years now.
So you were at the development team. You left for a year or two from that family, and now you're back with the same family again, right?
Yeah.
What and how did the transition happen from you just like focusing solely on traditional UCI races to making this fun like mix? Like you started doing this mix of stuff. Now, if I'm correct, that was about 3-4 years ago. You started mixing both.
Yeah.
And if I recall, the big one was you went and raced. God, was it Leadville? And then you went out to Utah and then crushed a
Yeah.
and everybody shit their pants. Like he's like, how the fuck does he have anything left after going and doing this crazy thing?
Yeah, I mean, like that was quite a long process, like because I rode for the development team and then went straight into the world tour team when I was 20, and like basically hated it. like I rode very well in the World Tour team the first year, and then just like I think it's like anyone, like you realize like a big goal in your life, and I got there, and I was very young, and I was just like, well, wait, this is it, kind of thing. Like I was like, I was like, I have a pro contract, I'm riding well. These are all the things that I thought were gonna fulfill me, but I was miserable, and like because in the process of like getting to that point, I kind of pushed like everything else in my life to the side, like my family, friends, just everything that wasn't riding really. Um, and I just kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's like I guess a lot of people don't ever get to that one thing, and then have the presence of mind to be able to like look around and sort of assess. But I was lucky that like I kind of reached that point early, and then I was so isolated that I became very apparent that like I wasn't fulfilled, and I was actually quite miserable. So that led me to like step away from the World Tour racing, and in that process I like rode my bike to the middle of Australia with my brother, and that really like shifted my perspective on bikes, because I'd always just used to race, and then this kind of like I realized I was like, you can travel on this thing, you can learn about yourself, you can learn about the places you're riding through, like this is like the best thing ever, you know. And like that, I don't know, that revelation just yeah, it changed the way I look at bikes and cycling and ultimately life. But yeah, so then I joined Jelly Belly, like the US team with Danny Van Hout, and just to see if I did still want to race. And I knew like once I started racing again, I was kind of like, yeah, I definitely still want to do this, but I also want to explore like everything else I can do on a bike. So I spent like the next 4 years like basically doing like a normal season, and then like in the off season we would go and do these like adventure rides and try and like juggle both, which like I could do like somewhat successfully, but it definitely felt like the two things never matched. And like when I would go to race, I was kind of like, all right, I'm putting on my professional face, kind of like it wasn't really ever totally being myself.
So is this how Thereabouts came? Is this when then Thereabouts all
Yeah,
started?
exactly. So we would go and do those trips, and then I'd go race the normal season. But then finally, this opportunity came up with EF to like, because I mean, Gus and I had this kind of idea that we tried to pitch to a bunch of people to be like, why can't we to combine these things? But yeah, like basically Rafa sort of facilitated that, and then it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, you know. And so I just like jumped at it and was like, all right, I want to do every event. I just want to do it all. And then that's kind of it's grown from there. And it's been like a really rewarding process, you know, like to combine everything I love about bikes and kind of put it all into like a dream calendar, I guess.
It's so amazing. I mean, I've watched the Thereabouts films. You know, I've talked to your brother Gus quite a bit about them and how much fun you guys had. I mean, Colombia, he said, was pretty rough. But,
For him.
but so, I mean, let's just kind of break it down. You've got Colorado Trail, Cocopelli Trail, GB Duro, Badlands race. I mean, these are not small feats. Like,
Right.
in fact, I mean, how long did you go without sleeping at Badlands? Was it 36 hours?
Oh, it was just 40 or 42 hours, I think.
I mean,
42
that's
hours.
just, I mean, I used to race 24-hour solo. So like, I get it. And you get that point.
Yeah.
It's like, we would call the 3 o'clock in the morning the witching hour, when you would start to see
Totally.
shit right before the
Yeah.
sun comes up, right? And then the sun comes up and you feel anew, and then you just go.
Yeah.
Right? But there's that time you like see
Yeah.
spaceships. And
If 3 a.m. on the first night is the witching hour, then 3 a.m. on the second night is like the devil's hour.
gotta be like twisted by that point, right?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I can't imagine, like, just looking at the sheer volume of the mileage, the elevation, but also the self-support that you've been doing, I think is really what, to me, cycling can be in a bigger way. Like, it was that, like, I look at bikes as it was the first way I could get the farthest point away from my family or my parents, right?
Yeah.
Without hearing them scream my name to come home, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about bikes. It makes you feel like a little kid again. You get outside, and there's definitely solace and suffering, right? Like when you're riding out there and you're pushing through something, because you're pushing yourself, you're competing within yourself. But it's,
Yeah.
what was that like? Okay, how did you decide which one to do first? What was this? How did you pick and choose it?
The first year was all just kind of like a shot in the dark a bit. So we went and did Unbound, and I loved that. But I remember being in the press conference afterwards, and I saw like Leah Wilcox had just finished the XL, and there was like a look in her eyes that was like, there was something that she'd experienced that I had never experienced, you know? And I was like, I want that. I want to see what that's all about. So the next event was the GB Duro, which is like Land's End, John O'Groats in the UK. And I was like, oh, okay, gravel race, I've got that. And then like within the first 5 miles, it was just like kind of walking through a field, you know? And I was like, oh, this is something different. And proceeded to like, I think I rode like 30 hours that first stint, you know? And like just went through the full range of like emotions that you have just as a human, you know, like from huge elated moments to just like the absolute, you know, bottom, darkest, deepest cave that you've got down there. And that was just in like the first day. And then proceeded to do that for a week. And I just had like the most amazing experience. And it was really like so much more than a bike ride. Like I felt really empowered coming out of it, because I overcame a bunch of fears that I had. And also just pushed harder than I just had more in me than I thought I did, you know. And it was the situation that brought that out. It was something that if I had never done that, like you wouldn't know you could go there, you know, and you would never bother to go there.
If I can interrupt you and ask, what was
Yeah.
the biggest fear? And you can tell me to fuck off if you don't want to tell me. But
I think the biggest fear, like going into that, was definitely like failing at like the first real uncomfortable moment. You know, I think like the idea of like, okay, what if it like gets really cold and I'm hungry and tired all at the same time, and it's dark, and like I'm trying to ride a sketchy trail in the middle of the night, you know? And beforehand I thought, I don't know what's going to happen when I get to that point, and I'm afraid I'm just going to crack, you know, like mentally, physically, or whatever it is. I'm afraid I'm going to give up, kind of thing. And to get into like those really difficult situations and then kind of get overwhelmed with it, but then realize you're like, all right, this is what I'm here for, and then being able to like step up to that moment, that was like really empowering in a way, and I kind of built on that each day, and realizing that like the difficulties just kind of keep coming, but the only thing you can control is just like how you deal with them. And it just kind of, you picked up little tools and little things that you know work for yourself, that you're like, all right, I can deal with this, and so that was like overcoming fears. But like, even, I mean, like, there was basic things. I was like, what if I like need to sleep like just on the side of the road, you know? Like, beforehand you're like, that's kind of scary, like, you know, but then you get in the situation and you're just like, oh man, how good's it going to be to just pull the bivvy out and sleep right here, you know what I mean? Like, in the scheme of the things you're dealing with, like the things you thought were scary before, you're like, oh mate, that's nothing, you know? um so like, or you run out of food, you know, and then you're like, realize, yeah, okay, I haven't eaten for like 8 hours and I've been riding, but I'm not dead. You know, like, nothing catastrophic has happened that I thought would, you know, and you just kind of get on with it. So yeah, that experience at that race in particular, like, just that definitely uh like whet my appetite for like the longer stuff, like the more endurance and like ultra, I guess you call it, like distances. um but also just like the like the from that I was kind of like, okay, a lot of good can happen from just throwing yourself in something, like, even if you don't have the experience, and like maybe it intimidates you, like there is a lot of good that can come from just throwing yourself in an event. So then, like, yeah, I went and did, like, I think after that, I just went straight and did like Colorado Trail, like after Leadville or something, and that just destroyed me, you know. And then like, I basically, from since then, I've just been trying to seek out things that I can do, and then when I get the feeling that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind jumping in a road race, I just kind of like get back in there for a few months.
So, like, looking at all these different ones and all the different experiences that have come along the way, the All Tour was, I think, from the public's eye, you overshadowed the entire Tour de France. There was the world was watching you. They were watching your dot, and people were freaking out. It was so inspiring for so many. I mean, how many Birkenstock shoes did you go through?
Yeah, right.
You know, the fact that you rode on flat pedals, you climbed those massive, you know, climbs. People really realized what is possible, right? Not only you showed them that you can do it if you put your mind to anything. And what, like, I've heard little bits and pieces of how that all came together, but was this you coming up with this cockamamie scheme, or was it somebody else? Was it a combination of you pulling it together, going, "Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll even ride the transfers." Yeah, because those aren't small or anything.
Now, the idea of riding the whole route, with the transfers, was like somewhere between Philip Holt, who is the EF CEO, and Jonathan Waters, who runs our team. I think it was like their brainchild. I'd probably have like a bunch of wine or something, and they're like, "Yeah, I bet he could do that." And but their idea was like, I would use would have a camper van following and like a crew, and you know, do it like, which like, I didn't want to I wanted to do it unsupported, because in a lot of ways it sounds strange in for me, that writing it in that style is like, somehow it's a bit it's easier because like mentally you're like engaged in a lot of different ways, than just simply pedaling, you know. You're kind of working out like, oh, I got to get food, like I need to remember, like when I see a bike shop, I got to get another tube because like I've only got 2 left, or you know, like, just there's always something you need to work out, or like I got to find the campground to like go and sleep, or so that was like my input, was like I want to do it self-supported, and also like I just feel like you engage with what you're doing a lot when you or like where you are. So like when you do things in like the self-supported fashion, because like, you know, you're engaging with people to get food, or you're engaging with someone when you're asking if you can camp out the back, or like, you know, like you're constantly getting a feel for where you are. And it's not like fragmented by like, huge stints and then sleeping in the back of a van and then just getting out and doing the same thing again. So yeah, it was kind of like a combination idea. And to be honest, I was like, no, I thought it would be. I don't know why. I was just like, oh yeah, I can knock this out. Like, won't be too bad. And then like we started crunching the numbers, and I was looking at these distances and like the elevation, and I was like, shit, this is gonna be like big. Like I have to do some big days. And I didn't want to do like sleep deprivation and like ride through the night. For like a few reasons. Like one, it's a long period of time to try and do that. And you're on open roads. Like all the ultra stuff I'd done before that was always off road for the most part. So like on roads, it's more dangerous. But also I didn't want to be so out of my mind tired that like I missed the experience. So I kind of set out with the idea that I would try and sleep at least 6 hours every night. And like just basically ride as much as I could otherwise. And it's basically how it ended up working. Like there were obviously like and like challenges, but to be honest, beforehand I knew all that was coming. Like I'd done enough of those long rides beforehand that I was like, there's gonna be some major things that come up here, and like you're just basically gonna have to deal with them. But you go through that process every time. Like for the first like 4 days, you're always thinking about why the next day is going to be easier. Like, oh, I'll do this, and now I've got this sorted. Like tomorrow's going to be easier. And then after like the 4th or 5th day of like something else popping up every day, as it always does, you're like, okay, I just need to stop like pretending tomorrow's going to be easier and just like prepare myself mentally for when that comes, so it doesn't crack me. So yeah, like it was a very rewarding experience. And like, yeah, it got a lot of traction, which I didn't kind of realize during it, because like I was just doing my thing, like didn't have my phone on really, except for to call my wife like at the end of the day, or like I'd turn it on to like look for the campsite or whatever. But I didn't really realize that like there was so many people following it. I mean, and that was never like
polarizing. It was fucking polarizing. You raised so much money for World Bicycle Relief. And it's amazing to hear that you didn't know that so many people were watching. I mean,
yeah, like there was like more and more people would turn out like dot watchers to come out and ride, and then like there was more and more like news crews and stuff turning up, like they'd try to stop you on the road, and it would just kind of be like, I'm trying to ride really far. Like, what am I haven't got time to be like stopped for an interview on the side of the road here.
You can
like,
drive next to me and you can film sideways.
Oh man, there was like one instance when like I had to do like a live cross to the US coverage, like to Phil Liggett, and I think it was Christian, and I had been so hungry, like I'd run out of food, and like I'd been like trying to get to this town for like no joke, like 5 hours. And the time came and I was like 2 Ks away from the edge of town, just dying. And I had to stop and do this like half-hour interview, and I could just barely see, And all I could think of was like, because I was like, I need to get to this town before I do this fucking live cross. But yeah, like those things, I didn't have an idea of the scope. But to be honest, like none of my, like I'm sure between like JV and the team now, they could probably understand. They're like, oh, this could be big. But as far as like my motivation is always like I'm searching for an experience that like I want to have, because I want to be like authentic to that. I don't want to do something because I'm like, I think this will be like get a lot of publicity, because the second you start to do that, like it diminishes like your experience of it, but like people also people aren't dumb. You know, like
all that bullshit. Like if you were doing it
exactly.
for that, it would be transparent and nobody would really be interested. I think that's what it was. I mean, from
Yeah,
perspective watching it, you were out riding your bike, having fun, suffering in the rain, wearing Birkenstocks. Oh, you're frozen. Did I lose you? Bach, have I still got you? There you are.
yeah, there we
You
go.
froze for a second. No, I think, you were out there with a smile.
Yeah,
Some days not as much when you were wet or your foot or your knee hurt, but you were enjoying it and you could see it. I mean, how many baguettes did you eat on that trip? Do you have a count?
oh man, um like at least uh I would say probably 40, at least 40.
That's a lot
Yeah,
of baguettes.
yeah. Yeah, that was like my staple. I was like,
Fits
I
right
would just
back.
anywhere I'd see a baguette, I'd be like, stop at like a little patisserie, grab a few things, and I'd be like, yeah, give me a baguette as well. Like just in case. And
So
I'd like eat it.
I'm guessing you're not gluten free.
Absolutely not. And a lot of milk. I would drink like at least a liter of milk every day. I don't know why that became just like a thing that seemed like the right thing to be doing, but I drank a lot of milk.
Were you craving certain things when you were riding? Was there foods that you were like, oh man, I really need this, or you felt like your body was desperate for it, or was it just,
Yeah,
uh,
like I never have like a crazy like nutrition strategy or anything. I'm not um like I spoke with the team the team dietitian beforehand, and like he started coming up with these strategies, and like to be honest, like I'm sure they were all really great, and like he's a great guy and he was really trying to help, but like deep down I was like, I know the reality of when I get out there I'm just going to be eating whatever I can.
yeah,
So like as far as I'm a big believer in like following cravings, especially on those long distance things, and I always just try and have like something sweet, something salty and savory, and then like I'll have like plain water, and then like water with like either like some sort of mix or like milk is a good one because like there's plenty of electrolytes in that. And then I'll just be like, okay, when my body's thirsty for something like sugary or salty, like I'll drink that. When I just want water, I'll have that. When I'm craving sweet, eat that, and then salty that, and then try and have like one proper meal every day. Which like because I decided like after the first night I slept in a hotel, which is like the plan was I was like, I'll probably do like one hotel and then camp a couple of nights, one hotel. And I don't know, I slept in a hotel the first night because like I had to start super late. So I finished at like 1. And then I did that and I was like, this isn't the right feeling. Like I was like, I feel this to me, I'm like, I want to be out. So then I decided I was camping like from then on. So I would like kind of finish up at like try and finish by like 7 to 8 p.m. So I could like cook whatever I'd bought like in my little burner, and then like enjoy that meal like for like an hour, and then like go to bed. So that was like in my head I was like gonna keep the scurvy away, like I'll try and eat something colorful.
I
And
love that. Keep the scurvy away.
yeah, and then like during the day I was just running hot, like whatever I could get my hands on. Generally I'd wake up, I didn't have breakfast, because it was good motivation to get going. So I'd like wake up at 5 and be like, okay, if I'm hungry, I'm gonna pack this tent up and like get moving. And then I'd find somewhere to eat at like whenever I'd see the first like bakery open, just normally around like 7. And I go in there and like grab a couple of baguettes, a couple of quiches, like, stuff the pockets, and then just get moving and eat my baguette and like drink my liter of milk. Then like
this mix of food, it's so rad.
yeah, there was no huge methodology behind it. But then like in like Carcassonne. Like I was riding through the city, and like I was having a hard day, and I went past this like restaurant. It was on the corner. I could see a bunch of people sitting out there in the sun, and like they were cooking meat in there, and I was like, that's what I want to be doing. Like, and I wouldn't like fight that. I just stopped, and then like drank a couple of beers, ate a steak, and then like, an hour later I was back on the road, refreshed and renewed. And because like mentally and I think a little bit physically, that's what I was craving, so like that's kind of my nutrition strategy. I don't know how like
I think that's honest. I mean, you're listening to your body, and it's telling you what you want, and you know what those things are, and that's a powerful understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like the more you do it, the more you kind of understand that. And then also like it kind of it's like reassuring to know that, because I feel like when you're racing, you kind of constantly fed this idea of like, and racing different, but you fed this idea of like, I need to be getting this much energy, I need to like get this in, otherwise like I'm gonna bonk and like fall apart out there. But your body has like a bunch of internal measures that kind of keep you on track if you like, are willing to listen to it. And yeah, I mean, when you spend like that much time out there riding along, that's basically all you're listening to is your body and like fighting with your own brain. So yeah, you get in tune with those things.
So how much time did you take off after doing that? Because I mean, you did hurt your knee was really sore, and you had to kind of give yourself some break.
Yeah, I mean, my knee repaired itself. Like once I got in the flats, it was good. Like it took a little while, but by the time I got to Paris, my knee was fine. And I think a couple of days later, I like went for a run from the hotel, and then I didn't really have any time off, to be honest, because I like it's a weird thing to say, and like, but for the last week, the thing I missed most was like mountain biking. I was like, I wish I could just take this bike off the road and onto some trails. Like, this is enough road time for me now. So I was really looking forward already to like getting back to Rona and then finally Colorado to like ride some mountain bike trails. So yeah, I didn't need a huge amount of time off. Like you kind of same thing. I find that like you just have to listen to your body and be honest with it, because like I've had times when I've done stuff that was seemingly not nearly as difficult, but you need more time to rest. And sometimes your body just, I don't know, like after the old tour, I felt like my body felt good, which was strange. I don't know if it was all the milk or like plenty of sunshine or what it was, but like I could feel, I was like, actually, I think I'm going to come out of this okay. So yeah, there's always like the week afterwards, like sometimes you just sleep for 12 hours and you're like, whoa, didn't see that coming, or like you wake up a certain day and you're like, okay, I need to just cool it today. Like I feel that tired, but yeah, for the most part, like I was back into it. I think I raced Leadville like about a month afterwards. Might have been less than a month. And
yeah, it sounds about less than a month.
I was like, I was fine there, So yeah, I think it's just there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's a weird one because like I don't work with a coach anymore, but even like like the team would look at like stuff I do and they'd be like, oh, he's going to be done, but there's no one really with the experience internally that's kind of dealt with that like ultra distance stuff before. So like if you compare it to like what someone who's preparing for like the real Tour de France does, it seems ridiculous, but yeah, I think for them it's kind of uncharted territory, and so I'm just kind of go back to the old faithful, like just listen to the body and see what happens. How
how was your experience at, I know you were very excited to race Cape Epic, and then
Yeah,
last minute you had a partner change and you brought in one of the racers from Team Amani, which I thought
yeah.
was really, really great and really cool. So what was that experience like, racing a race where you can't leave each other's side,
Yeah.
someone you hadn't raced with before, somebody you didn't know? What was that experience like?
It was super rewarding, to be honest. Like it was definitely like a big change in objective, because like for whatever reason Cape Epic was bringing out this like real competitive drive in me again. I don't know if it's like the format or just like there's something about it. I'm just like, I want to go there and race, you know? And Alex and I had been like kind of getting ourselves together for it for like 18 months. And everything was like just kind of falling into place. And then Alex crashed and broke his finger. So um, it was looked like the dream was over. And then I was like, oh, I think I definitely know some guys who would love the opportunity to race. And we kind of pulled the whole thing together. And then, yeah, Kenneth flew in from Kenya. He got the visa, I think, 2 days before or something. And
Wow.
like, yeah, he came in and he's such a nice guy. And like, it didn't take long for me to like, I realized he was obviously very green, and like it was going to be a huge learning experience. But at the same time, like understanding his situation and like his path into bike riding, and like how easy my path into cycling was in terms of opportunity. You know, I had every opportunity that you could possibly want. So it didn't take a lot for me to like kind of, I just put my own personal ambitions like straight away on the side. It's like, all right, we need to work this out just like as a partnership. One, like how are we going to get the most out of this partnership? And then two, how is Kenneth going to get the most out of this whole experience from a learning perspective? And yeah, I think we managed to do that really well. You know, like I was trying to teach him as much as I could about racing, mountain biking, and just like performing at that level. And then, you know, we would chat for like hours in the camper, like at night, and like I was learning so much from him just as a person, you know, like on a human level. So I think we both got so much out of it. And yeah, I'm really excited to be involved with like that program in particular, but also just um, I think like the elite level of any professional sport really should involve, you know, like giving back to like populations or specific people, or just some people who don't have the opportunity, because like the funding that exists at like top level of sport could do so much at the bottom level, you know. So yeah, it's kind of like it all happened somewhat by accident, but I'm really glad it did, because I really hope that becomes, you know, part of our program in the future. And yeah, I'm now Kenneth's coach, so I'm giving him training programs every day, and like we get
Oh,
on the
that's so
phone.
cool.
Yeah, I mean,
So
because
it's
like
bigger. It's a bigger thing. That's an amazing opportunity you created for him and for yourself at the same time. Learning.
yeah, and like it doesn't, well, it isn't like this idea of like, oh, we're giving this person the opportunity and like, you know, yay for us. It's like, no, what can we learn from him, and like what can we do collectively to like, you know, better this sport. So yeah, it was great. And like the Cape Epic itself as a race is amazing. You know, like it's like this perfect mix of like, it's very competitive, but the atmosphere is super relaxed, and the courses are like challenging, but not so much that like, you know, you can't sit around and have a beer afterwards and like have a laugh about it, you know. Like it's just it's a cool event, and I really hope to have the opportunity to go back for sure.
Do you think you'll head out and do the migration race one?
Yeah, I'd really love to do that.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like again, it's a really great example of like what a bike race can be and what a bike race can achieve. So yeah, I really hope to get out there this year for that. But I'm also planning on taking a trip to Kenya beforehand, maybe early next year, to do some training out there with Kenneth, and just like get a feel for it all. So yeah.
So one little last tidbit, and then we'll jump into the rapid fire questions, which are fun. Balance. Okay, I know this is something that you mentioned earlier, and why you found early on when you were racing in the World Tour that you were really kind of bummed out about it. But you are married, you have some dogs, you've got a life around that kind of, you got to balance that with the race and the ride and the fun. And how do you do that? And explain that to folks, because a lot of people don't know how to do that. I mean, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I think you never fully work that out, do you? It's just a process of like constantly checking yourself. And like, I think for me, like there's certain periods where I definitely focus more on my bike than the rest of my life. But then I try to like swing that back the other way, after I've done, whatever it is, like a big event, or sometimes it just happens, it creeps up, like I'm like, okay, I've just been focusing on bikes now for like a month, and like I need to like be more engaged with my wife, or like I need to like look at things outside of cycling for the next few weeks because I'm just down the rabbit hole. So I don't think it's like, I definitely don't have the answer to like what the perfect balance is. I think as for me, a big step was like, I don't train anymore. If that, like, I know I ride my bike a lot, but I never go out and do like a training session. Like there's never anything prescribed. I just like think about like a route that will motivate me. And like that's basically how I decide what I'm going to do that day. And if like, if I'm true to that, I come home and like I've left that there and I'm in a better mood, and like I'm basically better at doing everything else that I do for the rest of the day if I'm successful at like actually chasing what motivates me on my bike. Whereas opposed to like when I used to train, and I'd be like, okay, I got to go do 4 15-minute efforts, and then I shit the bed on the third one and it's not what I wanted, and then I come home and I'm miserable for like the whole afternoon until I have a great session. And then like that's, for me, that was a big step, because it's like, okay, if I'm happy with what I consider work, and then I come home even happier, and then I just kind of leave my bike at the door, and then like when I'm at home, I'm engaged with whatever I'm doing. That's kind of how I go about balance. But I'm still like an unbalanced person. I'm still out there riding my bike like over 30 hours every week, like a fucking nutbag. So I don't know. I don't think
good unbalanced. There's unbalanced and then there's unbalanced.
Yeah, exactly. Like at least like I feel like the unbalanced now, like I'm generally positive in most parts of my life now. So but I don't think I should be like the pin-up boy for like balance in life.
You'll be one of those posters next to the eagle swooping down over the water.
Exactly.
Like spiritual, like be better, fly in the moment, not
exactly.
All right, so let's do this rapid fire. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a personal opinion. You ready to roll?
Ready to go.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Espresso or drip?
Espresso.
Espresso, cappuccino?
Espresso.
I like that answer. I don't do too much of the milk. I'm surprised though. You said you drank a lot of milk on the ride, so I figured you would be doing milk coffee.
Yeah, just keep them separate.
Keep them separate. Hot dog, hamburger.
Hamburger. Okay, this is if it could be like a sausage roll, like an Australian sausage roll, I would say
that's a whole different ball of wax. I know the difference.
No, then I'm going hamburger for sure.
Because the hot dog's different than a sausage.
Yeah.
Those are proper and those are delicious. I love, but I do love me a hot dog. Ketchup or mustard?
Mustard.
Whole grain or Dijon?
Dijon.
Nigiri, sashimi.
Nigiri. It depends. Is this like one for the rest of your life?
No, it's whatever. Your answer's your answer. It doesn't matter. It's like, it's just your moment,
I feel like when I have really good sashimi, that's more of an I'm going to get sashimi. It's more of an experience for sure.
Sea urchin, caviar.
Sea urchin.
I'm actually going to add an extra ingredient to this. It used to be just be choice of two, but you're going to get a third one.
Nice.
Lobster, crab, or shrimp?
Crab. Definitely crab. We used to pull mud crabs out of our river growing up, and that's like, I think that's probably the most like memorable meals of my life was eating mud crabs. So definitely crab.
I'm not familiar. What is mud crab? It's
just like they're big boys, and they like grow in the side of the river, and you could basically paddle. We'd paddle our dinghy along with a spotlight, and then when you spotlight them, they don't move. They're like dazzled by the light, and you can just catch them with a net. But they're really big, and we'd basically just boil them up and then have it with like butter.
Oh my god, that sounds great.
We have to like hit it with a hammer basically to crack it all open. But yeah.
Wow. Beef or pork?
Beef.
Favorite junk food?
That's tough, man. I spent so much time writing that like I eat a lot of junk food. So like it's not like I never really am narrowing it down. Probably I'd say ice cream. Ice cream's good, right? Yeah, ice cream.
Ice cream?
Yeah.
That's always a good one. Burrito or taco?
Burrito.
Red wine or white wine?
Red wine.
Dark beer or light beer?
Dark beer.
Interesting. White spirits, brown spirits?
Brown.
Chocolate, fruit?
Fruit.
That's it?
Nice. Nice. I felt like it was getting more intense, until like
no,
I finally make a
that's
mistake. Yeah, I got you.
I think it's fun because like so many people, the differences of people's choices in life and why is pretty amazing.
Yeah. I like those questions. So great. Great.
I mean, I think food is a powerful thing, and I'm assuming on that trip through and everywhere you've been doing all these amazing adventures, you've seen, especially like Badlands. And you've lived in Spain, and the food there, in France, the food is incredible. So you're having these experiences. So when you talk to people, it's always interesting to see what their go-to thing is. Like I didn't say, I usually say like noodles or pasta, dumplings, ravioli. Everybody's got a different thought on which is better for them. So that makes it fun.
I feel like I definitely have like, when it comes to food, I feel like I have an absolute split personality, because like I could just be like inhaling food just purely because I'm like, all right, this is going to get me through the distance, like today I went for a ride and like I was like kind of a bit pressed for time. So like I was like, I'd love to stop at like this really good looking bakery over here and like, take my time and have a coffee and do that. And I was like, but instead I'm just going to like eat these 2 payday bars and like, like drink a Gatorade and then like, so I can get in a bit more writing, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, when I get home, I'm gonna have a really nice lunch. I'm gonna go out and like enjoy it, sit in the sun. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just have like two definitely split personality with that.
Have you ever heard of a guy by the name of John Stamstead?
No.
So John Stamstead was the first ultra guy, right? He was the guy he was the first guy to do the full continental divide. He was the first record holder there, the first record holder for Alaska for the Idita bike, like monster on a bike. He was the first person to do 24-hour solo.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to do it, because I saw him do it at the time. And I was like, this guy registered, paid for a 4-person team, but used his name in 4 different ways, right? He used to eat Cheese Whiz because it was caloric density, he used to call it. Caloric density.
Yeah.
So
I had a similar theory with like condensed milk. You know, like
a lot of sugar, dude.
Dude, yeah. And like, so if you ever get stuck somewhere, you're like, okay, you can just suck down a condensed milk and you go pretty far.
I don't know if I could actually do that.
No, you kind of have to like mix it. The best is if you get a liter of milk, put the whole tub in, and then like a bit more of a slow burn. But,
oh my god, this is going to be a new cookbook. It's called Lockie's Cookbook for On the Bike.
The way to be like, a human dumpster.
So, if people want to find you, the best way for them to find you is on Instagram?
Yeah, you can find me there. Or you might find me out on the road. You never know.
That's even better.
You probably have better chances of finding me out on the road.
Probably. Lachlan, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate it.
No worries, mate.
Super fun. And I look forward. Hopefully, I get to catch you on the road. Maybe you're coming my way on your next trip to California.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right. Cheers.